All right, folks, we are live streaming once again. Thanks to all the folks that tuned in for the live stream. I appreciate it. This is kind of an impromptu This Week in Photos show. I decided I wanted to sit down with a friend of mine, Mr. Chris Berry, and just kind of casually go through some of the cinematography and imagery that is present in, or that was presented to us in the new Black Panther film. So I think we both have a lot to say about that film, as does, I think, probably a quarter of the planet. So
Yeah.
we're gonna do that now. We're gonna jump right into that. So sit tight. The Black Panther imagery review is coming your way next. This is TWiP. All right, here we go. The Black Panther imagery review. We've got lots of stuff to talk about. There's some cool... Chris Berry is here, actually, to talk to me, or to join me to sort of run through some of the images that we saw and the different cinematography techniques that they used in the show. Chris, welcome to the show, man. What's going on?
Hey, man. I'm good. How are you? What's going on?
I'm doing good. Good. It's just, every live stream has its, let's say, challenges.
Yeah.
Each one.
Umpteen challenges.
Each live stream is different. But the good news is you learn something new on every single one.
Every day. Awesome.
Yeah. I think one of the big takeaways for people or that are interested in live streaming is give yourself about an hour, maybe 2 hours, to make sure everything is in place before going live. Because, like we were saying before we started, there's always something. There's always there's always some little gremlin that decides to like hide out under the desk, and then right at the stream time,
two wires apart.
Yep. Ta-da! Figure this problem out in 30 seconds. But it's all good. No sweat on this brow.
So do it. Let's do it.
So it's all good, man. So I'm excited. So we're gonna dive into, like I said, some of the live streaming or some of the cinematography of Black Panther. And before we do that, I want to get your thoughts on the movie itself. Did you enjoy the movie? What'd you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. First of all, for all the comic book people, all the movie goers, if you haven't seen the movie, one, just as a movie itself, it's excellent. But also, I'm not sure how everyone's going to be about spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, just earmuffs to yourself, because I'm going to talk freely about some of the things that I saw. But the movie was great. I saw it on my birthday. It came out on my birthday, which was really cool. So me and my family went to go see it. But it was great. The visuals, the cinematography, the story, the juxtaposition of different things that happen in the movie, which I'm sure we'll talk about. I think it was an excellent film, and as a first film in that part of the Marvel cinematic universe, I think it was an incredible first movie for sure.
Yeah, it was. Like, what was the biggest thing? Like, I know people say, when people talk about the movie, they talk about it from different perspectives. Like, oh, it was great. It was a breakaway from Marvel, and they went in a direction. It was all black cast, and it's and it wasn't stereotypical or any of that stuff. And and then Sony was a studio behind it, right? So they kind of leaned into it. They didn't just say, hey, here's this little movie over here, let's see if they like it, and then if they do like it, we'll do Black Panther 2. They actually leaned into Black Panther and promoted it. And then because the movie was good, and because there was such a pent-up demand for this kind of film, billions of dollars later, here we are.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you're getting into it. I mean, it's easy, the fact that it is culturally relevant, and there is an overwhelming black presence in the movie, whether it be director, screenwriter, actors and actresses, and things of that sort. That it's easy to look at those things and highlight those things as benefits, which of course they absolutely are. But the movie has great character development, great substance, great stories, and generally highlights a lot of stereotypes and breaks a lot of stereotypes and displays the the intricacies of different types of Black people,
Yeah.
of different ways in which people in general, but specifically in this movie, African peoples can exist in different
Hmm.
environments, different altitudes, different styles. It really is a testament to um, the writing and the history and the ways in which creative peoples come together and push out, I think, a really, really great first movie in a franchise for sure.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. And one of the yeah, the movie hit on several different angles, like you said, and one of them is it highlighted in I think a brilliant way. It highlighted sort of the difference between African Africans and African Americans,
Right.
right? I mean, and people,
Right.
you know, and it's hard to articulate, but growing up African American, there's always a rift. You know
Right.
that where you came from, and we're from Africa. This is the origin of our race. So I would argue the human race, but
Right.
specifically Black Americans, right? That's where we came from. But then we Black Americans are generally like the race without a country, because you're
Right.
you're in America, but we're ostracized in a lot of ways in America and compartmentalized. And then you go over to Africa and you're like, I'm gonna go back to Africa. I've spoken with many Africans, and it's not like they'd be like, "Hey,
Hey, come
come
on
on."
in. Right.
It's
Right.
not like that. It's like it's
Right.
like you can't go back to your parents' house and you're getting kicked out of your apartment, right? It's kind of
Right. Right.
it's
Exactly.
it's kind
Exactly.
of that feel. And then for this movie to come up and show that disparity, like it hit me on one side. On the one side, it's like, okay, that that is amazing over there, and it's
Right.
showing what Africans could be, and I would argue,
Right.
what they could have been if
Right.
not for slavery trade and all, the slavery trade and colonialism and all that stuff, what Africa could have been. Maybe not
Absolutely.
Wakanda, but it could have,
Right.
been a superpower, kind of like what they depicted in the film.
Right.
And so that's that one side of it. Then the other side of it is, if if in science fiction terms there was a Wakanda like that, and how they explored how Wakanda decided to kind of keep all their marbles to themselves
Mm-hmm.
over there,
Mm-hmm.
and not distribute them to the world, how would an African American who's been dealing with police shootings and racism and all this stuff, how would you deal with if you found out about this city over there, a shining
Right.
city on the hill that's doing nothing to
Right.
help
Right.
you? So on
Right.
the one side, I'm like, okay, I get it, Black Panther. You guys want to, keep that, you don't want people
Protected
messing with
and
it, right?
yep.
But on the
Yep.
other side, it's like, dude, we only got one planet, so let's figure this out. Did it hit
Right.
you on those levels as well?
Oh my god, I'm still unpacking that movie because each character in that movie helps prop up the next character or the next character's arc, or highlights a very real issue for not just you know blacks in society,
Mm-hmm.
um but just general issues of, hey, we have this and
Mm-hmm.
we have this privilege, and so what do we do with it? Do we keep it for ourselves? It's so valuable that we don't want anyone to have it, but we want to use it.
Yeah.
We've built this and we've gone here and we've done that and we've maintained our traditions, and we really don't want anyone to ruin that, but we in our heart we feel this is what's right.
Yeah.
So what do we how do we intelligently and collectively present things that we have as a people, and carefully share it with not only people who have left our country or our continent, because Africa is a huge continent, but how do we preserve this and also offer it safely and build everybody up,
Yeah.
everybody up.
Right. Right.
um so it's a very complex film, and a lot of complex ideas that I think were brought into the movie, and that are really, I think, really important conversation starters,
Mm-hmm.
um, because this idea that there is a highly intelligent, highly sophisticated, but at the same time traditional type of Black African society
Yeah.
that has flourished with time and technology,
Mm-hmm.
and also with their rituals and
Yeah.
with their ceremonies and with their
They
food
didn't
and with
lose
their
it.
color and with their, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that is one, that's something that is incredible about Stan Lee
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, that's been taken from Black Panther's inception and carried through the comic books through different people. You know, it's just an incredible idea, and there's a lot of stuff to ponder, you know, in and around the movie for
Yeah.
sure.
No. I agree. It is. Yeah. You hit on all the notes that I wanted. So what I want to do is I want to play the trailer from Black Panther, if I can bring it up here. I thought I had it on the screen, so I'm gonna give me a second here, Chris. You know what? While I'm doing this, you can't see this because we're in a Zoom hangout or a Zoom session together. But what I want to do is I want to play the trailer and get your thoughts on it. I think you have it over there as well, right?
I do.
So when you saw the trailer, while I'm gonna vamp while I try to figure this out on the side here. So when you saw the trailer for the first time, what were you expecting? Because we both knew that this movie was coming out, right?
Yeah.
Did you have low expectations going into it, or were you like, this is gonna be amazing?
You know, after seeing Captain America: Civil War, and hearing everybody talk about Black Panther, I was just like, "Ooh, this is gonna be so cool!"
Yeah, right.
I was really excited, and you know, even within that movie, you know, you see the whole father-son relationship, and you know, you can see the weight of what's going on with that character.
Yeah.
Within the Captain America Civil War, you can see that character being built extremely quickly in that Captain America Civil War movie.
Yeah.
So when the trailer came out and I was seeing waterfalls and, you know, and all these cool like heads up displays and graphics and like piloting a ship with your hand and like all these really sci-fi types of things that you're used to seeing, you know, and realistically in typical Hollywood fashion, but with not a huge Black cast, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about in almost what seems like all of a sudden there's all this money, there's all these resources, there's all this talent, there's all these really high class, you know, talent backing up and propping up this movie. So I was like, oh my gosh, are we really seeing like a movie called Black Panther with Black people and like Black places? And like, you know, it was incredible. I was like, ooh, and there's gonna be capoeira in the movie, and I got friends that are involved in this thing, and like, oh my gosh, it's Black arts, it's Black martial artists, it's Black direction. It is amazing.
Yeah, and it wasn't stereotypical, right? Because that was the other thing. You know, the running Hollywood or the running joke is always the Black people get killed in the first couple minutes of the movie, right?
Right.
It's
generally stone and they're dead, and that's
old Hollywood, right? Exactly. You know, hey, there's a ghost in the building. I'll go check it out. You know?
Right, exactly. Why you do that?
And they totally broke. So bravo to the studio, Marvel Studios. They totally broke from the stereotype of, you know, casting Black people as, you know, either the comedian, the athlete, the comedic comedy relief, the fall guy, the pimp, the, you know, the entertainer, whatever, right? You're always cast in those roles and never in like a real positive light, so to speak. So let me play this trailer here. It's about 2 minutes. You've seen it, but let's just roll this now. We can talk over it while it's playing if you want, because your audio will still be hot. So let me go ahead and take this shot. All right, so we're on the other computer now, and Black Panther's rolling. Can you hear that?
Fly. I've seen men build weapons that I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, I'm watching it as well as we go along.
Drop from the sky. But I have never seen anything like this. How much more are you hiding?
Hold up. Let's go. We are home. My son, it is your time. Show me my respect and bow down. You get to decide what kind of king you are going to be. Don't freeze. I never freeze.
The revolution will not be televised.
Show me my respect and bow down. We own now. We own now. We only getting started now. Cause we own now. The bodies that they own now. Cause we own now. You and I'm my homie. Cause we own now.
I waited my entire life for this. The world's gonna start over. I'ma burn it all.
What happens now determines what happens to the rest of the world.
This trailer is just too cool.
You will not be able to plug in, turn on, and cop out.
What kind of fun is fun?
The revolution will not be televised. Let's have some fun. The revolution will be live.
Right?
Yeah. So awesome.
Right? It's just ridiculous. It was ridiculous.
So awesome.
So
Never gets old.
I know, and I wasn't expecting that the Black Panther trailer, because I was thinking there's a lot of racial unrest, right? And in the United States. And then you look at Black Panther, you think about Black Panther. The Black Panthers, I believe, started in this area in Oakland. I'm in California, so they started in Oakland, and then they had some run-ins here in the capital of California in Sacramento, right? With Mitt Romney, I think. And so it really hit home. It's like, hey, I've been there. Hey, I live, and for them to do a movie called Black Panther, they didn't change the name and try to make it more politically correct. There's no, this is Black Panther.
Right. What it is. Exactly.
Exactly. They did a really good job. So I'm excited. So let's jump in some of the imagery, man. Let's do it. Let's talk about that. Are there any favorite scenes that you saw that you were like, you know what, this is great, in terms of.
That's a really, really good one. I guess the scenes, I can't narrow it down to one, really. That's going to be a tough one. But the scenes that intelligently highlight stereotypes of the image of Black people, those scenes that do that show another light. Yeah. And so, oh, wow, that was really intelligent how they spun this. And it's based in reality, it's based in fact. So whether it be, for example, my mom, when I was in 7th grade, she worked at an administrative office, and there's a scene where they're in Korea, and they're walking down the street, and one of the warriors, the female warriors in Wakanda, when they become warriors, they shave their head. Yeah. And in this particular scene, she had to assimilate like a lot of Black women have had to do in essentially white working environments, white collar jobs. They have to assimilate in some way, shape, or form, or at least they've felt they've had to. Yeah. So in this scene,
you gotta be non-threatening. You gotta be the non-threatening Black person. Right?
You gotta be the non-threatening Black female if you want to get anywhere in corporate America, right? Right. So she had a wig on. She's scratching her wig. I can't wait to get this wig off. So as soon as she could, that's deep. That's deep. Whether that's a superhero movie or whether that is a drama or whatever, that is a bald female who is wanting to be herself, but to get something done, she has to look a certain way.
Yeah.
And as soon as she can't wait to just take this fake wig off and be who she is.
I think that was one of my favorite scenes too, man.
Absolutely.
Seriously,
and there were throughout the movie different types of, you know, highlights of the Black experience that were inserted into the movie and weren't just there for show or fluff, but were important for the movie.
Yeah.
Those scenes in the movie were just above and beyond for me, super important. Just incredible. Those scenes. Yeah.
So this first shot, and you have all these images locally, I think. This first shot is with Chadwick Boseman, who plays the Black Panther. And, and I want to talk to this one a little bit because this is the shot I used in the poster frame for the YouTube video and all that. And it is, you know, you look at it and it's like, okay, this is a superhero, but this is also somebody who's representing Africa and traditional African garb, but also high tech. And he's got facial hair, and you know he's rocking it and looking serious. And I think this is, as a portrait goes, this is a clean shot. What do you think of this one?
Absolutely. I think this particular portrait shows the state that he is in as a leader, as a new leader. You know, he's unmasked, he's pensive, he's intense, he's gentle, you know, but he's very fierce, and he has a role to play, a very, very important role to play, you know, and he walks through the town like a citizen. You know, there isn't a fear of someone attacking him because of who he is. Everyone knows who he is. He is the king, you know, that's what his job is. But the lighting in this picture, it's very, very intense. It's very nicely done. It really speaks to how they want the character to be portrayed, and the visual aesthetics of his suit, you know, the claws, but his soft, round, facial features. He's not frowning. He's just pensive. He's not mad, but he's a thinker. I really like this image a lot. That's what I get from it.
Yeah, and from a lighting perspective, I look at this one and you could break it down. You see that it's side lit on both sides and probably backlit. We've seen that technique a lot in dramatic photography, right? Where there's almost no detail on the sides of his face. It's lit,
right? And
then the front is in shadow. I mean, it's lit from the top, obviously, because you can see the shadow underneath his nose there, right? So it's lit from the top. It's kind of like that reverse monster lighting. So they went high contrast, strength, and like you said, with the expression on his face, pensive, and you know, I would royal like, right? Because he is a king. You know?
Yeah, and if you look at the way they've used the light to carve out what looks also like his mask. If you picture his mask on his face, the lighting somewhat mirrors the silver highlights on the mask when he is fully in his Black Panther suit.
Yeah.
It's just great. The art direction, it's a great image.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, Chadwick Boseman, Black Panther, I saw the first interview with him. I think, what show was it on? I think it was on on the Daily Show. And that was the first time I'd ever heard him speak as an actor and talk about his, you know, the film and all that. And he said a couple things that echoed my sentiments on the film. And that was, you know, he, as the lead character, his job was to portray a king, but not the guy that was in charge of everything. In other words, all the women that were with him were not his sidekicks, right? They were a team. He just happened to be Black Panther on the team, but it was a team of people. You know, and I like that, and I got that out of the film. He was never like, okay, you guys are my supporting characters, and I'm Black Panther. It was like, I am part of you guys, and we're fighting, you know, Killmonger or whatever together. Right. Collectively. Yeah. So let's jump into the next shot. So the next shot is you have them in chronological order on your desktop there. So this is the one with him standing on that, I guess, a carving of a panther, and he's in full Black Panther in his full Black Panther suit, and there's some ships flying around. What'd you think of this shot?
I think it's absolutely incredible. I think one thing I notice about if I look at where we are in the state of the world, really, and how quote unquote we have done things, and then looking at what the movie does with Wakanda and what it is in relation to the rest of the world, you'll see this in the movie, but there are no walls.
Yeah.
There are no walls, you know. You can go to Wakanda if you found it.
Yeah.
You know, and so in this scene, you can see as far as the landscape will allow. You know, so not only is he looking on Wakanda, and not only can you leave Wakanda, you know, but you can go there too.
Yeah.
You know, the color is beautiful, the foreground, the height, the city, the scale of the city, and how intelligently it's been planned and built, and how it is housed by the landscape and protected by the landscape really makes me think of history, in that there are, for example, the Portuguese, sub-Saharan African, Brazil slave trade diaspora. There's a place in Brazil called Cachoeira, and it means waterfall. And it's historically it's a place that there was a resistance by African slaves in Brazil.
Yeah.
And so that landform is what helped, you know, runaway slaves in this part of Brazil have a resistance. And so this landscape makes me think of real history,
like a natural barrier, right?
Truth, right? And so anyway, the fact that the land is where they've built this amazing city, and it's been able to develop, you know, on this rock. It's a beautiful image that says so much about what's going on and what his job is as a protector, and his responsibility for protecting Wakanda and the technology and the people. It's amazing.
I agree. It's interesting. So, you know, from a technical aesthetic standpoint, you know, I look at this image, and my first thought when I look at the image is, you know, and I'm being overly critical, is I want more headroom above Black Panther. I don't know. I want more. I mean, it feels like his head is too close to the top of the frame. So, it's a great shot, but I just want to zoom out just a little bit more, you know? So that, as a photographer, I look at this shot, I'm like, oh man, I want a poster of this shot. But, you know, if you mat the poster, the mat's going to come down and touch his ears on the top.
Right.
Yeah. So, but, you know, I'm splitting hairs, obviously. And I say that tongue in cheek because this is a great image, and obviously it's a composite. So, you know, Wakanda doesn't actually exist, but well, maybe it does now in our minds, but you know, it doesn't actually exist. But yeah, I agree. Looking at the shot, you could see what they were thinking when they put this together, right? Because everything, especially since it's a composite, everything that's in this shot is on purpose. There's not like, hey, I just happened to catch these ships flying like this. You know, they meticulously put those exactly where they wanted them to go, right? So, and I would argue that the artist put Black Panther close to the top of the frame for a reason, too, right?
Right, absolutely.
But, you know, you look at this, and I think about that, and I think about, okay, so they put the sun, they got the highlight right behind the statue of the panther, right next to his left foot on purpose. His hands are in the perfect position. He's in the perfect position. They put an overall kind of cyanish green cast on it to kind of, you know, evoke that this is kind of in the jungle-ish. So you get that kind of warm feel to it. So I get all that. They did a brilliant job. And one thing that you said, Chris, about, you know, this kind of reminding you of things that actually happened in history, right? Like landlocked areas that were protected from the slave trade by natural barriers. When you were saying that, I was thinking of a kind of a slight tangent, and I was thinking that, you know, you look at shots like that, and you know, like what I was saying before, like African Americans are kind of disconnected from Africa, right? Or we're kind of a people without a country in a lot of ways, right? So when I look at Black Panther, I kind of think that Okay, well now since African Americans are a people without a country anyway, maybe Wakanda is now our country, right?
Right.
And even in the
Right.
back of your mind, you could
Right.
say, you know, since most of us, I would argue, most of us, unless you've done the ancestry.com stuff and or some genealogy test, you don't know exactly where you're from or where
Right.
you're mostly from in Africa. Why not just adopt Wakanda, right?
Right.
And
Right.
have
And the idea of, well, you take a child
Mhm.
and you expose that child to something. That's how the imagination kind of starts.
Mhm.
You don't know your potential or the potential of something unless there's a spark,
Yeah.
of curiosity, of possibility, or whatever the case may be. you
Yeah.
know and so this image is great. I think it does make you want to be curious about Africa
Yeah.
if you aren't already. you
Right.
know
Right. No, I agree. Yeah, I want to go to Wakanda for sure. I want to
yeah, heck
go.
yeah. Take me with you.
Yeah, I know. Let's go. Let's get a ticket. Okay, so this next shot is they're on the waterfall and they're getting ready to do the challenge, right?
Yes.
So, and the ship has is bringing Black Panther to this proving area, which is at the top of some waterfalls. And yeah, it's a brilliant shot. It's beautiful. What did you think when you saw this shot?
In the movie, it definitely is really breathtaking because you know there is, I don't want to give too much away, but this is another ceremony for everybody in Wakanda to come and see. Okay, and so the tribes are present, the people are present, the elders are there, family is there, and so on and so forth, and everyone's really there to support, to prop up
Yeah.
the new king. But there's also a ceremony that has to go through, and this is a ritual. And so the fact that the scene shows that there is something going on again in a very important place, and everybody is dressed up, and everybody is looking down and viewing and seeing, and it's respectful and colorful,
Yeah.
and the sound and all that. It's a beautiful scene. The water, the depth, the height, of this on screen is the lighting with the on the ship, how it
Hmm.
just gives that little haze right there.
Yeah.
Um, it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful image.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
great, and
Scary too.
yeah, I would go there too. Yeah, God, what does it remind me? It's just like you look at the shot, and when I look at the shot, it just the juxtaposition of technology of highly advanced technology and traditional Africans, in a traditional African setting. It just
Hmm.
again, it just harkens back to like the underlying theme of the movie. It feels like was what could have been, right?
Right.
What could have been, and what could be, So
Right. Right.
it's not like it's too late, right? It's like
Right.
what are the possibilities and what could have been, and yeah, you look at this as like, and the way the filmmakers put this together was, you look at it, and when they're doing the vignettes and the different characters and they're doing the close-ups and all that, you see the one shot of the one person, because there are a bunch of tribes represented there, right? So, and then
Hmm.
there's one person there that has like a big ring in his lip, with
Hmm.
his lip stretched out and all that. And I remember seeing pictures like that in high school and junior high school and elementary school, and thinking like, wow, look at that, that's crazy. Look at these
Right.
people. And then you fast forward today, I was looking at it, it was still jarring, but it's like, okay, they brought that into the movie. This is like real
Yeah.
stuff. It's not like they
Right.
like tried to make some kind of fake, this
Right.
is a, an Anglo, interpretation of what Africans are. They
Right.
actually pulled from traditional real African tribes and said, this is what you could be. And then there's a spaceship there and it's like nothing for you. Right. So,
Right. Right.
isn't that
Right.
cool?
Right.
Yeah, no, I dig that. That was really cool. So, any further shots? Any further thoughts on that shot before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I just think that this particular image really does show not only the color but the scale in which you may attempt to capture an image.
Right.
You know, because there are landscapes that, you know, for example, I was listening to an interview with Ryan Coogler, and he was talking about, I think he said he went to Kenya, because when he talked to Marvel about doing the movie, he said, well, you know what, I got to go to Africa. And he was talking about different places that he visited and how it's on such a grand scale that you just cannot capture it.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Right.
so huge. And this image makes me think, wow,
Right.
this place is vast, it's large, it's
Yeah.
colorful, it's alive.
Yeah.
You know, there are resources, you know, there are people, you know, how do you get there? You know, like if you look at time and then you look at a spaceship in this crazy landform, like it makes me curious as to what happened there, you know, and where is the water coming from and where is it going to? And it's wonderful. It's a
Yeah.
beautiful image.
Yeah. Well, here's another image. The next one in the series is a close up of them getting ready to jump in and do battle. Right. So same kind of feel, right? And it's closer. The spaceship's gone now, so it's a close up of them, and there's Forrest Whitaker there officiating the ceremony. You've got Chadwick Boseman and Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger getting ready to go at it, right? And I gotta tell you, when I saw this scene, one of the first things I thought was, you know, I felt bad about myself because these guys are ripped. Right? I'm like, what's
going on here?
Like, oh, that's the way we're supposed to look. Okay.
We could totally do that.
Yeah.
We can at least shave our heads and, you know, start looking more like intense. You know?
I know. Well, hey, they both did not have shaved heads, so
true story.
Yeah,
true story.
So
yeah,
we go for it.
I like the mood in this image. I like, you know, if you see the movie, it'll make a little bit more sense to you. But there's a transition happening here, and with the sunset and the mood in the film that I'm familiar with, but some people also may have seen it too. But this really shows a little bit of the kind of foreshadowing, like something's about to happen right here. The sun's going down, the lighting is changing. It's not as bright as the other scene. So when you kind of look at both of them back to back, you can think, okay, there's something going on here that everyone's celebrating, and then it looks like something's going on that maybe is not so good. You know, pair that with the lighting and the darkness, you know, to the side and how people are looking on. You know, I like the emotion that you get in this image, the position that Michael B. Jordan's standing in, you know, and Forrest Whitaker's there, and you can really see that, you can almost feel the emotion and feel what's about to happen in this scene. I love the depth, you know, in the movie. I like this scene a lot.
I can't wait for this movie to come out on DVD, because or on you know, Netflix or iTunes or whatever. Actually, iTunes, because you want to buy it to get the extras. Because a movie like this, I really want to see the behind the scenes, because in how they shot this. Because, you know, you look at this in 3D or digital imaging and all that stuff has come so far. It used to be back in the day, you could tell, like, oh, that's composited. Oh, that's a fake background. Or, you know, you look at like old movies of, like, I was watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. Like Indiana Jones, right? And you watch that again today with today's eyes on and what we thought was state-of-the-art special effects back then, and you can see the seams, right? You can see, like, oh, that boulder's rolling and the background shakes a little bit, and that's a composite, you know. So you can see that stuff, whereas when you see it in theater back then, it was like, oh, this is amazing. This is a blockbuster epic film. And then you fast forward to today and you look at these films and it's like, I have no idea where the seams are. Right. You could kind of guess, like, you know, maybe they weren't, you know, maybe they're standing on a sound stage somewhere in water and the rest is composited, or maybe they built part of that wall to put the characters on and then the rest is composite, or are they actually in a location like that somewhere and they just put the far background in as a composite? You know, who knows? I mean, what do you think? What do you think is composited in here?
I think everything except for the water and what they're standing on is
fake,
composited.
Really?
Yeah. I think as like the necessary elements are there. I mean, because water is probably lots and lots of bucks to do in post.
Yeah.
And then also with the reality of the type of fighting that they're doing, and, you know, splashing in water and falling into water and all these types of things. I think that element is real. And I think, you know, like the platforms or whatever they're standing on, I think all that is real as well.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's all blue green.
Yeah, totally. So bravo to the filmmakers, right? Because
Yeah.
part of it's just like when you're retouching photos in our world, right? If you're doing a retouch job and people can see where you retouched, then
Right.
it breaks the illusion.
Right.
Right. So if you're doing a portrait, you know, for example, you're doing a portrait and people can say, oh yeah, look, I see the skin is too smooth, or the, you
Right.
know, the people don't, the whites of their eyes are too white, you know,
Right.
I can't, you know, it breaks the illusion and takes you out of the narrative or the story that you're trying to build. But if you've done your job right as a photographer, then no one even notices that anything has been done. And that's the key. And like with
Right.
with a movie like this, where you're trying to tell an important story and really sell a narrative of what's going on, seems in the special effects take you out of the illusion, and you start thinking about, oh, look at that that rock is fake or whatever, and you lose sight of the real story that's going on. Do you agree with that?
I absolutely do. I think there's definitely a thin line, because it's 2018. We all know a lot of things are gonna be, you know, blue green screen, you know, things of that sort, you know, After Effects and, you know, Photoshop and, you know, all these things. But as long as it's not overdone and there's a degree of, you know, fake realism,
Yeah.
because I think that people's brains are, you know, can be two different ways. Like, oh, that's way too fake. And like, oh, okay, I know that's fake, but that's real. It's fake done well.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
kind of like
fake
silicone
done
implants, right? It's the same.
Yeah. If your fake is awesome, then it's real enough.
I'm okay with it. I'll go along with the illusion you're trying to sell.
But it is, you know, your pregame, your preparation, which these actors and actresses and screenwriters and Ryan Coogler, what they've done, has study.
Yeah.
You know, they've lived it, you know, and so each actor can bring their own experiences, whether it be through culture or through the business or through art direction or, you know, cinematography or whatever the case may be, or technology. They bring that to the movie, and it really feels like an amazing collective effort to build this potential future that, you know, could have been, or and still could be, like you said.
Yeah, and that's why you know, as we had this conversation, I just had a revelation that I keep thinking about Black Panther in terms of, wow, this is the missed opportunity. This is what could have been. Wow, if the Dutch hadn't come down with those ships, this is what could have happened to my ancestors. This is the direction that my ancestors could have gone in. When I think that's probably a defeatist way of thinking of things, right? I think probably a correct way of thinking is, unless we all have time machines, you can't go back and change things, right?
Right.
So, but we can change the future. So we can, you know, if you look at this and from a standpoint of inspiration, like, okay, we could probably move closer to something like that. You know, we could move in that direction, both on the African American side and the African side. Maybe at some point, kind of, you know, joining together in the middle. You know,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's you know, you got to think from that standpoint, because it's really easy to slide into that whole negativity of, wow, you know. Look at what happened to us, and now we're screwed. Right. And just wallow in that pit of despair. But if you look at it on the other side and say, you know what, you know, okay, you know, that could have been, but it still can't be, and let's press forward. I'm going to do my part to get us a centimeter closer to that, right? Which is why, hey, TWiP is here. You know, that's what I'm saying. All right, man, let's move on to this next shot. So this next shot is one of my favorite shots from the photo, and the actor in here, I got my notes here because all these names are, the lead actor is Winston Duke, and he plays this character who's the leader of this tribe that let me pull up this shot here. he's a leader of a tribe that worships gorillas, and they come on the scene and they're like, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo," all that stuff. It is just powerful. It is awesome and unapologetically powerful.
Yeah.
And this particular shot right here, just this was just for lack of a better phrase, this is just a badass shot. You look at this and it's like, yeah, I would be that guy sitting there. That is just that is pimp to the nth degree, right? What did you think of the shot when you saw it?
This image is super powerful because it's vastly different than seeing this waterfall and seeing all these beautiful colors and the sunset and this and that. They're cold. There's no grass. There's no glass. There's no technology.
Yeah.
But there is a branch and a degree of sophistication within these characters.
Yeah.
They are just different. They have the same complexity, they have the same intellect, they have the same cultural significance within their own tribe and in relation to the other tribes in Wakanda. And they exist on their own, but they exist with everyone else. The lighting in this one with the clouds and the different colors, the color palette's really, really simple. I think it's really, really strong. It's definitely different than the reds and the greens and the blacks and the warm tones. It's a lot cooler, a lot darker. But I still get a degree of mood and emotion from this image. I get power from it. I get you better come here and respect me. From this image. And I love how the lines draw you right in to the actors on the set. And I love how it's backlit, subtly backlit in these darker blues and a little bit of white tones in the back. I love the lines. I love everything. It's like, boom, there's no clutter. Once you get to the subject, there's nothing distracting.
Yeah.
It's just presence.
I was thinking I want to decorate my master bedroom like this. This is
actually I did mine just like this.
Did you? But I was seriously like looking at this. I agree with everything you said, and I look at it, and you look at I think those are birch branches at the top that they have hanging from the top, white birch. If they are, if not, then there's some other kind of wood, obviously. But I love the kind of blending of the randomness of nature with the hanging branches, and then they're sitting on like, I'm guessing it's wood on the flooring there with these kind of very stark geometric shapes down there at the bottom. So you got this geometry, which is saying to me that, okay, these guys are serious. They're modern. They're not living in grass huts with dirt floors. They are up there with the Wakandans, in a lot of ways. And then you look above and you see the traditional. So it's that the theme throughout the movie is the mixture of old and new, right? Or modern, where things would have gone, right? Or where things could be. And you look at that, and I'm like, and then you put these strong characters standing there, and there's one dude just sitting there like like Kanye on his throne.
right, exactly.
Get ready to just like, okay, what do you want? Why are you bothering me?
Right. Speak.
Yeah. See what you got to say out here. I got things to do, No, yeah. I think that was cool. So yeah, that was one of my favorite shots in the film. What did you think of in terms of the storyline? The way that they wrote that in there, they how they introduced this character and how the Wakandans. This is the guy that challenged Black Panther and lost, right?
Yes. Yep.
And how he had to go eat crow to get their help. What did you think of that part of the storyline?
This character has got to be one of my favorite characters in the movie, because this is another way in which they've chosen to like visually display a stereotype and audibly display a stereotype, but then the way this particular leader speaks, what what they actually do in the movie shows a deep connection to respect and doing the right thing and
Yeah.
what's right. You know, there's a joke that talks about you know, makes light of them being barbarians, and then they chuckle and then they dispel that type of stereotype. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to give it away because it's a really really cool part of the movie and it just makes you crack up, but it's very it's extremely intelligent the way they did it, and it highlights and kind of breaks the stereotype of, you know, black people being barbarians, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
these people being barbarians because of the tribe that they are and what they worship and how they worship. And
Yeah.
you know, there's even a little nod to how their children are raised, you know. So there's they've crafted these characters and put them on screen in ways that they really don't make one person the main star. You know, they've done an excellent job
Yeah.
with character development, and it's great. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love how they introduced them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and it's yeah, yeah, like what you said. It's like this character when you first meet him. I mean, when you first meet him, he's articulate and strong, and then you meet him later in the movie, and you grow even more respect for him because he's strong, and then also he has empathy to a degree, right?
Right.
Empathy
Right.
to a degree, but it's yeah, it's just not your stereotypical. Okay, this is a bad guy. He wasn't a bad guy in the film, but you would think he was a bad guy, you know, and he doesn't really come off as a bad guy as you walk through the film. So I think they did a good job with that overall. It's really
Yeah.
good. This next shot I want to bring up, Chris, is this is a shot you sent over. This is them exiting one of the spaceships. He and his entourage, Black Panther, or Chadwick Boseman and his entourage. I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
What do you think of this shot?
I think it's beautiful. I think I love the layers. I love the sharp lines. I love the lighting.
Mm-hmm.
I do like how they're all in stride. He looks very confident. She looks like, and I know she's very confident in the film, but you can look at the emotion on each of their faces. They're not really showing teeth, but they're showing three different types of um, emotions and range. If you see different scenes in the movie, you can begin to build a profile for the types of characters that they are.
Yeah.
I love how in this shot and other shots they use the same colors on these actors for certain moods.
Yeah.
I love how they use, you know, red, black, and green, and gold as well, for the main palette for these strong main characters. You know, Chadwick Boseman's character and Lupita's character. I love the relationship that they highlight using color and using texture and using pattern throughout the movie. I think it's brilliant. I love the triangular shape that they've positioned them in the
Mm-hmm.
scene.
Mm-hmm.
I love how they just put these subtle hints that if you study it a little bit, you'll really get the significance of how powerful an image is because of what they've inserted into it, not just the lighting or the cool ship or whatever, but they've really done a great job to place things in each scene to teach you something about each particular character.
Yeah. No.
Great.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And one thing I wanted to hit on is, you know, I mentioned that interview that I saw with Chadwick Boseman on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah, and the one of the things that struck me is, like I said, I'd never heard him talk before, and then when he started talking, I was expecting him to speak with an African accent, right? Because or at least an English accent, because normally we're like these actors, these accomplished actors that we see, or many of them, they're they have English accents, you know, and they're from somewhere not here,
right?
And then when he started talking, he was like us, right?
Right.
It's like normal dude
I could run into,
right? It's like so that even hit it further home for me, like, oh, he really is like me. He's just like a normal dude, right? He's in our age range roughly, and you know, it was kind of the same feeling I had around, not exactly the same feeling, but you know, when Obama was voted in, You know, many male African Americans in particular for this particular line of thinking were like, hey, I'm kind of like him. I could do something like that, you know, and he was a lawyer too. I could be, you know, so you start thinking that. And the same thing when he was on stage and he started talking, I was like, okay, he's just like me. He's much more relatable. He's relatable. And that makes the film even more relatable.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I was interested. That was really interesting. I think the woman on the right was his general, right? I think in her that was. I have notes here.
Danai Gurira, I think. If I
was it?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Danai Gurira. Yeah. And she plays Okoye. Yeah. In the film, she's the one that was complaining about wearing a wig, right?
Yep.
That was killer. I love that because, you know, I have my own feelings about weave and wigs, and and I was, when she said that, I was like, yeah, that's right.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. And it's and also, like, if you look at this particular image of three and this triangular shape position, this relationship between three, you look at a man that is got one type of woman that represents something with her heart, and she walks with that strongly and tall. You have another one that looks traditional, and she's a warrior, and she also walks strong and tall. Yeah. You know, and then you look at the other scene, you have a man who's sitting down, and he's anchored by two men. So there's like this three figure that keeps coming up throughout the movie. This
triangles,
triangle point. There's a lot of symbolism in this movie that I'm still unpacking even as we speak. But there's a lot of threes. There's a lot of that going on. A lot of triangles, a lot of hard lines. Even if you look at the ship, you know, there's triangles and there's you know, it's just amazing. They've thought about a lot.
Yeah, this is definitely a movie to own because I didn't even notice that, and you're absolutely right. Yeah, triangles. One other thing on this shot that I wanted to point out and highlight is, and you probably didn't see, maybe you did see this, but Black Panther's boots or his shoes. Those are, I think in Japan they call those tabi boots. The ones that are like split between your big toe and the next smaller toe. And those are like what ninjas used to wear, right? So I thought that was cool that they brought like ninja, like, because Black Panther is kind of like a ninja, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I thought
there's
that was really
cool. I don't want to blow it, but there's a really cool scene in the movie that speaks to how technologically advanced they are, but also how sheltered they are from the rest of the world. You know, and they intelligently insert humor with certain characters and youthfulness and vibrance, and you know, it's just such a good movie. Oh my goodness!
It's like, I gotta go see it again now. No, it was inspiring in a lot of ways. I'm gonna bring up this next shot here, and this is Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. And he did a really good job. You know what? And I feel so bad because my nephew was visiting me a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about the movie Creed. Have you seen the movie Creed?
I have seen Creed.
I had not seen Creed. For some reason, I just, one of those movies that, you know, just kind of slips by, and I had not seen it. And he's like, Uncle Fred, you gotta go see, you gotta put this on. So we watched it, and I actually watched it a couple more times after that. I was like, this is, and then that was, I know Michael B. Jordan has been around for a while making films, but I had new respect for him after watching Creed. And then in Black Panther, he comes up as Killmonger and crushes it as Killmonger, because he, in Black Panther, or not Black Panther, in Creed, he kind of played the, you know, the troubled youth who was, you know, the son of Apollo Creed, but then didn't want to acknowledge his heritage, wanted to stand on his own, and, you know, always had that kind of, you know, sour face and just the pissed off kind of boxer, you know, which fit. And he played that. And then, you know, you fast forward to this movie, and he's got that same kind of face going on, but he rolled into that, you know, that, yeah, what's the best way to put it? I'm angry, and I've been waiting my whole life to seize this thing, and I'm gonna do it regardless, or die trying. Right.
What an interesting comparison. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's an interesting comparison. Yeah, or contrast. I should compare and contrast. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. And who's that on the right there? That's the Get Out guy, right?
Yeah, this is a guy that spoke, and I was like, oh, this guy's got a different accent. Like,
Yeah. Is he? I've
Yeah.
never heard him speak not in character. Is he not American?
he's not American.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly where he's from, but he played Chris in Get Out, and in the movie he plays a very important role. But he's one of the farmers, and his partner is Okoye, the character Okoye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's so what are your thoughts on this shot?
This is a super intense shot.
Yeah.
You can see a lot in the eyes in both of these characters.
Mm-hmm.
In the character to the right, I can't remember the character's name, but he looks like he is kind of at attention, not he's done his part, and now he's just waiting. But it looks like he's responsible, and he knows what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And now he's passed the baton. He's given the stage to Michael B. Jordan's character, Eric Killmonger. He's given the stage to him to do whatever he's going to do. The dark gray, the dark blue, the same type, the opposite of lighting, where Black Panther's lighting, Chadwick Boseman's lighting was blown and kind of lit from the side. It's almost opposite.
Yeah.
Now it's lit just down the middle, and it carves out his face almost in the exact opposite way.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put these pictures together and you kind of compare them, you say, oh, wow, maybe there's a relationship there between these two characters because of the opposite type of lighting that they used in this particular scene.
Yeah.
You can tell that they've put a lot of energy and focus into the type of emotion that you want to get from these types of images. There's, again, with the triangles and the shapes and the geometry and the background, how it's well lit. You got the golds, but you don't have any greens, you don't have any reds, you don't have any black.
Yeah.
You don't have those same types of emotions coming together to tell you something about this image.
Right.
But you do have the dark grays. You do have this idea of battle. Like, this guy, has grown up, sad because you have the blues in there. This guy also has some technology going on, but you can tell he's like ready for something. He owns something, but he's angry, but he's right at the same time. He's entitled.
And that was I mean, you know how you go to movies and you always come away with questions, and if it's a good movie, you come away with a good movie is thought provoking, right? So you're like, okay, what if? Like, what if this? And what was the director? What were the filmmakers trying to tell me or trying to get across? What's the story in this film? Like, like another film that I just recently saw was The Shape of Water. Right. So
wow, I missed that one.
Hey, it's out on iTunes. Go get it. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was watching that one, and congratulations, Guillermo del Toro. He won what was the Oscar for that, right?
Mm-hmm,
So he the story in that one, I'm still trying to figure out what the overall story what he's trying to tell me, and it was a great film, but what was the takeaway? Like, what is the takeaway? Was like, if you see the film, I won't give it away, but it since you haven't seen it, it raises a lot of questions, and I think that's what he was trying to do. He was trying to get you to think about, like, when you get to the end of some of these movies that are thought provoking, it makes you have to go see it again,
right?
Because you're like, oh.
Right.
It's kind of like The Usual Suspects, right? Oh,
right.
The Kaiser Soze was all along. He was the guy, right? So now I got to go watch it again. Or The Sixth Sense, right? With Bruce Willis, like, oh, he was a ghost the entire time. I didn't know. I got to go watch it again.
What?
Right.
Yeah.
And then you watch it again, and you're like, okay, and it's a brand new movie when you see it again, knowing what's going on with that character. And the dialogue starts making sense, and some of the things that you just let slide by, Yep, and then and you look at this shot, and it's the same kind of thing, because you watch the movie once, and then you think about it, and then you kind of figure out, like, the conversations that we're having. You think about, like, okay, Well, if I was in that world, what side would I be on? You know, would I, you know, who was the hero? Right. Like, I think Chadwick Boseman in that Daily Show interview said that there was no hero in this movie. Right. They're both heroes. They're both fighting for a just cause. And then, but as the movie progresses, you know, we at least American audiences have been conditioned to think that, okay, there is this superhero, the other guy's clearly the villain, look at how he's talking and acting and trying to take over and all that, that's the villain over there. But then as you kind of let it marinate a little bit, you're like, which one would I be? You know, if in this situation I'm closer obviously to Killmonger, right? Like, Killmonger is us, right? We would be the Killmonger in this scenario. And was Killmonger wrong? What do you think? I mean, if you had to be in this Marvel universe, which one would you be?
That is really, really tough, because I don't want to give too much away, but you have a lot of stories going on in this movie. Each character has a real scenario that you may have gone through or will go through. Yeah. What is right? What is my reality? Okay, this right here is my reality. This is how I feel. This is what I want to do, and I'm going to do it. And guess what? I'm right. Yeah. You know, for what happened to me, for what happened to my mom or dad, and for what I want to do to make it right, because of tradition, because of law, because of how I feel, because of what, you know, my forefathers did, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do what's right. Yeah. Yeah. I may be wrong in the ways in which I choose to do it, but I'm right. Yeah. You know,
I mean, I would argue, I mean, maybe what other way could you have done it if you were in that universe?
Exactly.
There's nothing else he could have done.
Like rooting for the villain, you know, who in some ways could represent, you know, someone that has lost their way or was taken away, right, and has a deep emotional connection to what has happened in the past and wants to at least go back and make change in other people's minds as far as what's right and what's wrong and what should happen as a result of how lost a closed community can be, whether it is the community that's away or the community that's had an opportunity to stay and grow. You know, bro, it's brilliant the way they've done it. Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great shot. I have new respect for Michael B. Jordan, and I'm really happy that this cast is enjoying the success that they're enjoying, right? Because we're gonna they've blown up. Now we're gonna see them all over the place. So this is, you know, and frankly, with this sort of, you know, let's call it the shedding of Hollywood with all these scandals that have been going on. The soil is ripe for new talent to go in there. We need new stars. I was saying that a couple months ago. I was like, we need new stars. We need new musicians. We need new stars. I'm tired of seeing the same old names over and over again. Let's see some new people with some new stuff. And I think
need a refresh.
We need Control Delete on this stuff, man. Come on, let me see some new ideas. You know, and Marvel, because we grew up when we grew up. Marvel is part of our upbringing, right? So we're a ripe audience for Marvel. I used to collect comic books when I was a kid. I was a fan of Spider-Man and Iron Man for two different reasons. And Spider-Man, because he was a nerd like I was, you know, he was like this skinny nerd that was awkward, but then he just figured out he got superpowers, and now he's got this power. And then Iron Man, because of the nerd or the technology, right? It was he had no powers. His power was being ridiculously rich and smart. And smart, and he was a womanizer. You know,
and he was hurt.
Yeah.
He was hurt.
Yep. Yeah. And then to some degree Batman, because Batman was the same way, but Batman was just scarred. You know, arguably Batman, he probably wouldn't have been Batman had he had a therapist, right? So
Exactly.
His therapy is going around like catching villains and beating people up. So, all right, let's move on to this next shot. This next shot is he's in this. I'm not exactly sure. I think this is a dream sequence, or he's in this other world, and this is when he's getting his powers, right?
Yeah.
So this, what do you think about this one? The colors in this one are fantastic. It's just over the top cool. What do you think?
This obviously, that he's looking up to, things, and if he's looking up to Black Panthers, and thinking about the color purple and the blues and the tones that they used, that is royalty. Purple is royalty in culture, in this particular culture. And so for me, it's, and also knowing what I know about purple, and then knowing what I know about the movie, he's looking up at, the past.
Yeah.
He's looking up at his forefathers,
the previous
other
Black Panthers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the width in which, there is, available for this scene. I love how the branches stretch out. I love how they go different ways. So to me, there's roots, there's strength, there is past, present. There is this feeling of, I'm down here, you're up there, and I'm in your space, but I'm, and then you have Panthers looking down at him. He's looking up to them, and even though there's so much darkness in this shot, and it's backlit again by these really vibrant colors, you still get a tremendous amount of depth and emotion from what is going on in this scene. The trees in the bottom almost look like it was painted with like a flat brush, like
like a Bob Ross. Bob Ross is back there painting.
Very much so. Bob Ross. Yeah, like it looks like, it looks artistic in that regard. It also, the purples kind of look like Northern Lights type of lines and things of that sort. It's just a beautiful set of tonality for the shot.
This shot reminds me of like I can't remember it, but I remember either my brother or sister, when I was growing up, in their roommate, maybe it's a relative, I can't remember, I have like foggy memories of this, but there was this so I had like this velvet painting in their room. It was on velvet. It was kind of like this. I remember there's a Black Panther in it. You may have seen this, right?
I have.
Right?
I have.
And it was kind of like this. I wish I could remember. If anybody watching this remembers this painting, please post a link to it. But it was a kind of a velvety shot, the same kind of color palette. And when I saw this shot, it was like, this looks really familiar for some reason. I don't know why.
Like a tiger or something. We had one.
Yes, it was like a tiger. Yeah, but yeah, this shot, very, very well done. I'm in the market for a cat. So my cat died a couple of years ago. I had a cat for 18 years and she died a couple of years ago, and I haven't been able to pull myself to get another cat, But now that I'm getting a little settled now, I'm like, okay, maybe it's time for me to get another cat. And now I think I want to get a black cat. So
there you go. Heck yeah.
I need to get a black cat and name it Killmonger.
They have mini panthers now.
No, we're not. I'm not.
Well, if they don't, then maybe there's a market for miniature little Black Panther pets.
Yeah, there you go. Look at you, the consummate marketer. Look at you. All right, so let's move on to this next shot. So this next shot is some of the female lead characters in the movie, and I want to talk about this shot and in the context specifically, or at least initially, about the costume design and how they mixed kind of traditional, like we were talking about before, the theme throughout the movie is traditional African garb with a modern twist to it. So I'll let you go first. What do you think about this one?
I think the three different types of characters, I think initially it's the colors are a little bit more muted. Like as far as the reds, they're a little bit more drawn down. The mood is quite a bit different. There's this, looking from left to right, Lupita's character is standing a little bit more proud and kind of confident, but still a little bit reserved by crossing her chest, but ready to fight because she has weapons.
Yeah.
And then in the middle, you still have this idea of youthfulness with the ponytails and the paint and still battle, but then there's also technology. I really like that. And then like going down to Danai Gurira's character, Okoye, I see like a little bit more conflict. I'm seeing a lot of emotion in the shots, but with her, I see a little bit more conflict and a little bit of confusion, but still holding fast to her weapon and still very much tied to, you know, what she believes.
Yeah.
I love how the light is kind of shining on, you know, her shoulder. I really like that, and how there's just a sliver of it hitting the gold and a sliver of it hitting her shoulder and a sliver of it kind of right down her head. And you know, I really like the lighting and how that draws emotion, because not a lot of faces are bright and yay, there aren't a lot of gross motor movements and machinations in these shots. It's just, here's what each character is, and just with their eyes or just with their pose or a lift of the gaze or closing of the eyes, you know, you get emotion from each character. You get what their job is, you get where they are in relation to one another and where they are independent of one another.
Yeah.
The lighting and direction is great, the color palettes are great.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's like typical movie poster style implementation. But the other takeaway from this for me was, and I echo what Del Rose is in the chat, and he brought up a good point about the strong black woman versus the mean black woman, right? And the stereotype around black women, generally speaking, is, you know, they're sassy, they're mean, you know, they have this attitude, the talk to the hand, the neck whip, you know, all that stuff. That's the stereotype for black women, which we know is not true, right? So it's true in some cases, but it's not across the board. Like, you know, like people try to portray this. So you look at this movie and these characters, and you know, I would argue that the term strong black woman is a detractor, because if you have to put a modifier on there like strong, then you're saying that this is an outlier, right? You're like, why do you? It's like saying, like, oh, here's an example. Like I'll do talks from time to time around the country, and you know how you do a talk, and then people will bum rush the stage and ask you questions, and you sit there and you have fun, you connect with the audience and all that. But one of the comments that I get, I'd say maybe half of the time, is, and people are saying this completely innocently, but they'll come up to me. And they'll say, "Oh, that was a great talk, Frederick. You did such a great job up there. You're so articulate." You know? And I'm like, and I think back to this Chris Rock skit when Chris Rock said, because someone said that about Colin Powell, right? And Chris Rock did this interview, like, telling someone they're articulate is like, that's something you say to chimps that can speak or do sign language, right? You're like, it's not a bar. And like with strong, like using the term strong black woman, it's like, just say woman, you know? Yeah, in the context of Black Panther, okay, black woman. But these are just either strong women or just great women or women, right? I mean, I don't think black women need to have the modifier of strong, because if you say that, then that's saying, oh, yeah, like you say, oh, you're a strong black woman. That means everybody else is not as strong, right?
Right. And, you know, the thing about this movie is you are left to compare one black person to another black person, to another black person, to another black person, to another, you know, so you have old, you have young, you have, you know, you have people shopping, you have warriors, you have youth, you have, you know, politicians, you have, you know, scenes where you have people talking and debating and, you know, and intelligently conversing on really important subjects. So the idea that, you know, there is there are these people down here, and then there's a standout, like, oh, there's an articulate one. You know what I mean? They're all powerful, and they all have conviction, and they all have intelligence, and they all have ritual, and they all have a past, and they all are struggling to do what's right, and they all have made mistakes, and they're trying to do better, versus, oh, I never met anyone that is strong. You're a strong, you know, or, you know, so you have short hair, you have bald, you have ponytails, you have curls, you have white hair, you have blonde, you know, you have all these things, you have jewelry, you have not so much jewelry, you know, you have traditional, you have non-traditional, you have a blend of it all. You have that throughout the entire movie, you know.
It's just showing depth, and it's showing that this movie in particular, and many movies I would argue, are showing that, you know, Black people aren't one-dimensional. Right. As in many ways Hollywood has portrayed us, it is, you know, you're either this, you're that. Like I was saying in the beginning, you're an athlete, you're a comedian, you're, you know, you're, you know, this kind of actor, you're the sassy Black woman, you're the gang member, you know, all these negative sort of stereotypes. And, you know, one of the shows back in the day that helped break through those, you know, notwithstanding all the negativity that's happening today, was the Cosby Show. Remember the Cosby Show? So the Cosby Show was one of the first sitcoms to show Black people in kind of a normal, middle class, not poverty, not good times, trying to make the rent. You know, it was Dr. Huxtable and Claire and their kids, and they have normal problems. They're still Black. They still know they're Black, but they're not, you know, they're not the stereotype of the negative side of Black people. Yeah, there's poor people across all races. Every single race is represented in the U.S. on a range of poverty, right? So why not show, you know, everything, right?
So, all of it.
Yeah. So I was excited about that. The next shot I want to get to is, is this guy. So this is the group shot of everybody together, which is this is cool. I want a family shot like this, right?
Heck yeah, who doesn't?
this one was really cool. So give me your thoughts on this shot first.
Wow, just from the actors, you know, you have some serious talent in this image. You have, you know, Angela Bassett's character as the mother, strong matriarch, you know,
and she is still pretty, right? She, like, I have no idea how old she is, but she's still pretty. She was pretty. Remember, she was she in the Matrix? She was in the Matrix too, right? Was Angela Bassett in the Matrix?
Was she?
I don't think
so.
No, God, I feel like she was in the Matrix. Well, there's somebody in the Matrix that reminded me of her at least, but like even. Yeah, like all of her movies, she's got those Angela Bassett lips, right?
And she's got like this. When she in this picture, even though she is behind her son and she's smaller in relation to, say, Forrest Whitaker, she jumps out of the picture for me.
Yeah.
You know, because of how she's holding his shoulder, how she's gently resting her hand on his arm, but she is, you know, the spine, the neck, the brains, the connection to the past, and I think the engine that continues to drive Wakanda forward, just from how she's positioned and how she's dressed in this shot. You know, and then she's got the warrior, she's got Eric Killmonger, you know, and man, it's a great image. And there's, again, if you look at the top, you see Eric Killmonger, you know, and you see Lupita, and then you go down to Shuri, and then you go over to Forrest Whitaker. You have another triangle, you know, you have this relationship, you know, and then you have that triangle that moves backward and forward, you know, so there's this staggering of mood, blue, green, red, and then you have technology, and then you have this idea, you know, of lineage and stature and sophistication and presence and just royalty, you know. Each character looks like they represent a piece of the story. You know, you have medicine and war and past and this confidence, you know, and then you have this next character and you have this next character, and it's a very, very strong image.
It's a good, this is definitely a good start to a franchise. I know Marvel Studios is like, oh yeah, because, you know, as well as this movie did, I could see we're going to be well into Black Panther 5 and 6 and
absolutely
with these characters. Yeah, and I agree with the triangle thing. This, you know, in a lot of ways, this color palette and just this is more saturated. But you remember going back to sitcoms again. Remember Good Times? Remember that the famous photo at the beginning of Good Times that they showed? This kind of, I mean, you know, it kind of reminds me of that a little bit. With you know, so yeah, brilliant. No, I like this a lot. The this one of the things that I read, and you have to go watch the movie again to see this. Was about Forrest Whitaker, and. You know, Forrest Whitaker is famous for having that lazy eye, and you can see it. You can really see it in his latest appearance in one of the Star Wars films. But he has this lazy eye, which is kind of part of his character. I think they fixed it in Black Panther.
You know, I didn't even notice that.
They fixed his lazy eye through CG, I believe, in Black Panther. Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. It's because there was a joke going around online. They were saying, man, the vibranium in Wakanda is so strong, it even fixed Forrest Whitaker's lazy eye.
Straighten my man right out.
So, yeah, if you got a lazy eye, Wakanda may have the tools to fix it for you. So cool, man. I think that was the last image that I wanted to go through, and we ran a little bit long, but this was a really good conversation. I think it was important to kind of dive into this.
Another thing, real quick about this particular image. I haven't seen a lot of images that show each character's conflict. You know, like there isn't I don't remember seeing an image where, you know, there is a fight, you know, where they're at each other, like really at each other. There always seems to be like this underlying respect, you know, for a common thread between everybody, and I like that idea of we're all together even though we have different ideas of how things should be done. Amazing. Diversity in film and diversity in this niche in Wakanda, right? So, heck yeah, I'm excited to see what's next for Wakanda, man. I want to see what happens. You know, what are they gonna do next? Are they gonna right around the corner in May? We'll see. Are they gonna drop that shield, or are they gonna, you know, what's gonna happen? You know, one of the rumors I heard was that, and strangely enough, this was from, I was geeking out with the AT&T guy who was coming here to fix my bandwidth the other day, and he saw my screen, my desktop, and what was my desktop when he came over? It was like it was some science fiction scene. So we started talking about Marvel and all this in those different universes. And and he was saying, because he's like if I have a toe in the water of geeky science fiction superhero movies, he's marinating neck deep in it. So he knew all the movies and what's gonna happen and who's coming out and all the interactions and what's happening. So we were talking about Black Panther and Iron Man and Thor. And he was saying that Thor in one of the next movies, maybe not the next one, but one of the next movies, Thor is going to get killed, and so is Iron Man. What? Yeah. So kind of because they're at the end of their in the real world, they're at the end of their contracts, and in the Marvel universe, they're being replaced. And it makes sense because you look at Black Panther. And the Wakandan tech that Black Panther's little sister put into place trumps anything that Tony Stark or Stark Industries put together, right? So it's like Black Panther and his little sister kind of take up the mantle of the high-end tech stuff, right? And then we've got all these other heroes like Wonder Woman and Flash and, you know, that need character development, and they have their own, you know, movies. In the case of Wonder Woman, another movie's coming out, and then there's a standalone movie for Flash that's coming out. Can't wait. Yeah, so I don't know. The jury's out on that Flash. So I wasn't happy with the Flash in the last movie. All day about how disappointing that was.
Yeah, yeah. That's a whole nother show. Yeah, the Flash, the Hulk needs the Hulk needs a movie. I'm sorry.
Time. He needs some screen time.
He needs some screen time. He needs a movie. Like the Hulk in the comics, and we're really geeking out here. Sorry, people. But Hulk in the comics is arguably one of the strongest, if not the strongest, hero. Right. Because he gets stronger the angrier he gets and bigger. Yeah. Right. And yeah, he can nearly fly. He jumps. I mean, he's just like like the Hulk is the real deal, and he's in the comics he ages so slowly that there's like he outlasts humanity, and he's still like thousands of years later he's still on Earth and still in his prime. But, you know, which in many ways I'd say that's a curse. But, you know,
I was going to say, man,
I don't know if I want to outlive everybody, you know. So, well, cool, man. So this was a good show, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man, it's been great.
Yeah, this was good. Thanks for exploring the world of Black Panther with me.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts on the movie?
I'm just going to go see it again. I'm actually going to go try and see it today.
Oh, you're going to see it today? Really?
I'm going to try. We'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta sit in the back of the theater by yourself and go geek out on it?
Eat some popcorn.
Yeah, no, this is a good movie, Black Panther. Congratulations to the entire cast. These guys did a fantastic job. And if you listen to any of the interviews, they and I guess this goes for most movies where, you know, they're self-deprecating and they're like, we didn't know, but they really didn't know. Right. They really had no idea the pent-up demand for a movie like this and what it was. And I would imagine the studio didn't know either. So they just happened to put funding behind it. You know, well, let's not take away. The studios are smart, so
they knew.
I'm sure they did their research and all that. But they funded this thing properly. The cast, you know. But you hear these guys talking, they're like, "We figured it was going to be a success because it's in the Marvel franchise. It's a new character and he's cool and everything." But we had no idea it was going to be like this. Right. Yeah. So, all right. So here we are. So congratulations to the cast of Black Panther. Where can people go to check out some more of your work if they're interested in learning more about Chris Berry?
Instagram. My Instagram name is Mickman, MIKMAAN. And then Twitter is Xman, EKSMAAN. And then also Xman on Facebook too.
Awesome. And I'll put all those links in the blog post and in the description for this show. All right, man. Thanks a lot. You know what we should do? Right? We should do.
I know what we should do.
Wakanda Forever.
You gotta do the high five.
We gotta do Wakanda Forever. Do the crossed R's.
Wakanda Forever.
Wakanda Forever. Yeah. Or my new phrase from Black Panther on the Avengers movie was when Hawkeye introduced himself to him. They were doing that. Remember that fight at the airport? They were doing that fight.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Hi, I'm Clint." And Black Panther goes, "I don't care."
I don't care.
And then, you know, messed up Captain America's shield, you know. I love it. All right, man. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you next time.
See you next time, man. Thanks.
All right. Peace.
Later.
This is TWiP.